Does cybersecurity seem like a terrifying topic? Don't worry, we're here to make it a smash hit. This episode is brought to you by Roundtable Technology, the nonprofit IT partner. And for the 10th year in a row, they're back with their free annual webinar, and this time it's bigger and bolder with a 2025 twist, cyber karaoke. Roundtable Technology is turning up the volume to teach you and your team exactly how to make your nonprofit more secure in the new year, all while keeping things fun and engaging. With over 200 nonprofit clients, they know how to help organizations like yours hit all the right notes when it comes to cybersecurity. So make it your New Year's resolution to give your entire staff free cybersecurity awareness training. Do not miss this. Head over to nonprofitit.com/best-ever to save your free seat now. That's nonprofitit.com/best-ever. Here's to a secure and harmonious 2025. Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell, and I'm going to sit down with nonprofit industry experts, fundraisers, marketers, and everyone in between to get real and discuss what it takes to build that movement that you've been dreaming of. I created the Nonprofit Nation podcast to share practical wisdom and strategies to help you confidently find your voice, definitively grow your audience, and effectively build your movement. If you're a nonprofit newbie or an experienced professional who's looking to get more visibility, reach more people, and create even more impact, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell. And today I am joined by the second half of the OG Nonprofit Social Media Nerds, Josh Hirsch, aka now the AI Dude. And Josh not only is an incredible person, a seasoned nonprofit strategist, he has over 17 years of experience in the sector. He and I have spoken on stages all over the world together, I guess we can say, because we spoke at Icon in Toronto together. So technically we're international. And Josh is the education and training strategist at Fundraise Up and a faculty member at Indiana University's Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, as well as the host of the AI Dude podcast. And Josh is dedicated to helping nonprofits navigate the intersection of technology and philanthropy. Josh, welcome. You're in warm Florida, aren't you?
Well, warm is a relative term. I mean, it was in the 30s here this morning.
What?
But
in Florida?
It gets cold.
It's in the 30s here in Boston.
It gets cold in Northeast Florida. When we moved up here 4 years ago, I had to go buy an ice scraper. I did not know
ice scraper. Oh my Lord.
I've had to use it 3 times this season already. I mean, we get cold weather. People are surprised by it, but where we are up in Northeast Florida, it gets cold.
I'm pretty shocked. I know you've been literally traveling and traversing the United States from Texas, California. You just can't keep track of where you are. You've worked in the nonprofit world for over 17 years. And when you and I first started working together, collaborating, we really focused on social media and social media for fundraising. But now you've taken on the helm of focusing on AI and the intersection of technology and philanthropy. So what inspired that? Why make the transition?
First off, I think it was a very natural transition.
It was a very natural transition. It was like made for you.
It was definitely made for me, but also in the same respect, I've just always been an early adopter. I've always been that sort of person who has a thirst for knowledge. And when I fell down the rabbit hole of generative AI art several years ago, I surrounded myself by really smart people that understood the science and the tech behind it, which I didn't grasp that. What I grasped was I can talk to a computer and I can get what I want. So all of a sudden, November 22nd, 2022 came around, and here we had the opportunity to join the beta of this thing called ChatGPT by OpenAI, which we had already seen OpenAI in action with DALL-E. And I'm like, all right, well, let me begin to absorb everything I could about this world of generative AI. And the thing is, generative AI isn't new. It's just we now have the ability to have much greater ease of access through the ways that we can talk to the computer through tools like ChatGPT. So as I do with everything, I fall down the rabbit hole that I'm really passionate about and take on as much as I can. I subscribe to multiple different newsletters because with something like this, you have to be in the know literally daily.
Oh my gosh.
It is evolving.
It's changing at a lightning speed.
And what's so exciting is there has been nothing, in my opinion, in the last 50 plus years in nonprofit sector that has had as great of an impact and is evolving at such a rapid pace that's creating equitability amongst nonprofits of all sizes. Because now you can literally be a startup nonprofit operating out of your front bedroom and have an entire army of employees that are all virtual, that are all very highly skilled, highly trained, unpaid interns to focus on an area that you might not have expertise or knowledge in to help you grow as an organization and create greater impact, all because you have taken that risk, that calculated risk, and learned how to talk to the computer.
What do you see in your work, either as the AI dude or with Fundraise Up or with the Lilly School? What's holding nonprofits back? Because I did read a statistic, 49% of nonprofits are exploring AI, but only 2% are fully integrating it. What do you think is holding us back?
Was that from the Nonprofit Readiness Study by Giving Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, great study. The folks there, Woodrow and team, are doing some awesome stuff. I think what it is, it's the not knowing of what's possible. I think, too often people are scared by this, and it's not something that they should be scared about. They should want to embrace the potential of what can be. And having that leadership that is willing and wanting to give them that freedom. It's having that understanding that you're not going to break something if you begin to use it. And at the same time, too, knowing that it's okay to mess up in an environment like generative AI before you take it out for a full spin. So if you're sitting there wanting to implement a new program and see the impact it might have, we'll feed the model, train it on past data, feed it on the impact that you're trying to accomplish, and get its feedback, seeing if that right path will make sense. And at the same time, too, even when you are successful something, using it to determine from an analytical perspective, looking at the KPIs, was this successful? What am I determining as success? There is no greater power that we now have than generative AI to leverage our intent to create that greater impact. To me, it's the most exciting thing that we have.
I completely agree with you. And I think for a lot of our listeners, they're trying to figure out not only can it increase sort of efficiency and productivity, but how can it increase fundraising results? Can you share maybe like some use cases or some examples of how nonprofits are using it? I guess we can talk about efficiency and productivity first, and then dive into maybe fundraising operations.
So from a high level perspective, we know that how important it is to segment our communications, that we cannot talk to the same people all the same way. The way that you are supporting an organization and are brought into that organization, and I could be supporting that same organization, but your passion behind it and my passion and connection are completely different. We may be at different levels of giving. We may be in different parts of the country. We may be involved in different parts of the organization as a whole. And if we use a singular message, it's going to fall on deaf ears. So being able to speak to someone the way that they want to be spoken to, the way that I'm connected to your organization, makes the world of difference, because most likely that donor is supporting another organization. Very rarely do we see donors who have a singular philanthropic mindset and aren't supporting in some capacity another organization at some level. So how are you going to stand out to me amongst all that other noise that's out there? And how are we doing that? Well, we're doing that with data, because we're going to have a clean CRM. I'm tracking more than just the quantitative data points, but those qualitative data points that are connecting you to my organization. And how can I leverage those qualitative data points? Well, now it's about writing a letter to you at end of year that goes beyond that traditional mail merge of giving amount, last date, and such, and really leaning into, okay, well, Julia not only volunteers as a board, school board member, but her daughter is on the volleyball team and she's a booster of that. And she's very passionate about equity and education. Exactly. Because I have good data points on you, Julia. So I'm leveraging those data points to make a connection to you. And now when I say, hey, you've been giving at $100 a year for the last 10 years, just think about the impact that you can make at $150 a year. Or even more so, what about giving us $12 a month?
Wow.
Now we're going to take your one-time gift and I'm going to lean into it, looking at the data to say, you know what, maybe this donor would be good as a monthly donor. All of that I'm able to do now at scale using generative AI and predictive AI if you're exploring that realm. It is something that is tangible that organizations of all sizes, of all budgets, and of all resources can do, and it will make you more efficient as a result.
Now, for the people out there, I think a lot of us are probably familiar with generative AI tools, or at least have heard of them, like ChatGPT, which is also my tool of choice, my favorite one, Claude, Gemini. I mean, there's a million of them. I know it's all about prompting. So can you give us some advice on how we can get better at prompting and maybe some prompts that we can use to increase our efficiency and productivity?
Absolutely. So
and tell us what prompting is, just in case people don't know. I know you're the master of prompting.
I'm not the master. I just, I can think logically, I can think strategically, and I can think creatively to get from point A to point B. And by being able to clearly explain to the computer what I'm looking for. Right. So having a clear conversation in natural language, right? I'm not using any coding. I'm not using any syntax. I'm just saying, I want to create a 6-month fund development communications plan that's segmented to major donors. Major donors are defined as anyone who gives at $10,000 annually or more. I want this campaign to be omni-channel across social, email, direct mail, blogs, SMS, phone calls, in person. Our social media channels are XYZ. I want to have a minimum of 3 touches a month on social, a minimum of 1 direct mail piece a month. I want to have 2 emails. I want to ensure those emails are a minimum of 4 paragraphs long with a CTA to donate. This campaign should have SMART objectives by month. I mean, literally, that's the prompt that I'm putting into ChatGPT, and we'll get back my first draft. First draft is never your final draft. And having that seems like a lot of mouthful, but being that clear, being that specific will ensure I get a much better quality output than if I just said, create a 6-month fund development plan for my organization.
Exactly. I always say it's like an intern. It's like an assistant. If you have an intern that just comes to your organization and knows nothing about you, and you said, create a 6-month fundraising plan, you wouldn't get back anything that was very comprehensive or relevant or specific or tailored to your organization because you didn't give the intern the proper information. So I agree with you. I think the more information and detail and intention that you can provide, sort of the better that these tools are going to be. And it's like you said, they learn over time. It's not something where all of a sudden all of your problems are going to be solved by ChatGPT in one afternoon, because it's going to take time for it to learn about your organization and what you do and your purpose and your tone of voice and all of that.
Exactly.
So I know just from, you know this from speaking to nonprofits, and I know this from reading and speaking to my clients, that sort of data privacy is really a top concern for nonprofits adopting AI tools. So how can nonprofits address this challenge, continue to build trust with their donors, but continue to leverage the power and potential of these tools?
I always find it funny where, and I agree 100%, like donor privacy, donor anonymity, 100% something that we need to focus on. But then these nonprofits work with third-party wealth screening tools and will hand over their house lists, not anonymized. They'll say, hey, here's Josh Hirsch who lives at 123 Main Street.
Right.
Here's all the data points we have on them.
Right.
And then those third-party vendors, as part of their screening process, are using AI in some capacity, and we're okay with that. But then we freak out when we're like, okay, we have our own donor data. What are we going to do with it with ChatGPT? And yes, you want to ensure your donor privacy. You want to not put that information into a tool like ChatGPT. But at the same time, too, like, we have to realize, how am I going to use that data? So I'm going to say, as opposed to Josh Hirsch, I'm going to say donor record ID 374. That way, when I run the various generative processes that I'm going to try to accomplish and create bespoke content for donor record ID 374, I know that it's Josh Hirsch. I'm going to remove Josh's mailing address, but I'm going to keep his zip code because that's good for geolocation trends. So how can I leverage those data points while at the same time protecting the donor privacy? Now, we got to have an AI usage policy. Mm-hmm. This is something I feel very strongly about. You need to have those guardrails in place because you have a donor acceptance, gift acceptance policy for your donors. If a donor comes along and says, hey, I want to give you a $250,000 thoroughbred racehorse, but it's going to cost you $50,000 a year to put it in a stable, and it's going to cost you $10,000 a month to feed it and train it and provide all this care. Are you going to accept that $250,000 racehorse? Maybe not. So having a guardrail in place for your donors is important. So how are you going to put a guardrail in place for your own employees? Because you know what? Most likely they're operating in silos right now. Mm-hmm. They're using AI and everyone is doing something independent. And if you don't have those guardrails and direction from leadership, well, then you're going to have opportunities where it might be used not inappropriately, but not as effectively as it could.
What are some important and essential elements of an AI use policy? I think that's something that people probably, it's very new to them.
Well, my recommendation is always go check out fundraising.ai. They've put together a framework that is adoptable by everyone. It's a good starting point. I also have a great template for an AI usage policy that I like to share during my presentations. Data privacy, what tools you're going to use, who's going to have access to the data, the importance of transparency. Are you putting on your website your AI usage policy? Because you know what? Donors are becoming very much more educated and more aware of the times we're living in. They're probably aware that that letter that they're reading might not all be just from you. It may have gone through a couple iterations and initial drafts from a tool like ChatGPT, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's allowing you to be much more specific to them as a donor. It's allowing you to now touch more donors than you could in a typical day because you're able to not only generate more letters and generate more touches, but generate more letters and touches specifically to that donor the way that they want to be heard and spoken to.
Now, you probably have your finger on the pulse more than I do. Where is an organization like AFP, like the Association of Fundraising Professionals, landing on donor concerns about AI use? Like, are we saying this letter was written by ChatGPT or are we not? I honestly don't know. I'm interested to know.
I see it both ways. There was a great study by our friends Chiri and Koshi and Nathan Chappell looking at the perspectives from a donor on a nonprofit's use of AI. And they've done a couple, I think they've done an initial iteration of that from a healthcare perspective. Really great stuff. Like I said, donors are aware of it. I think it's important that we make our donors aware because here's the thing. What's the difference of me saying, hey, Julia, you just got an end of year appeal to support your local animal shelter. We know that you're a big dog person and you've been donating for the last 10 years. Those last 10 years, you've been reading a letter that has been drafted by an outside consultant that then came back internally. It went through about 3 or 4 different people for revisions, finally went off to our director of development for a sign off. And then our executive director signed their name and wrote a little PS at the bottom because they know that you're a major donor over the last 10 years.
Yes.
What's the difference between that and the cost associated working with an outside consultant and the time associated with that versus your $20 a month subscription to ChatGPT that allows you to get to that first draft much quicker and much more efficiently than working with an outside consultant? To me, I don't see a difference.
Absolutely. And we all use Grammarly or Hemingway or, something that's going to help improve, hopefully, improve our grammar, improve our writing, improve our punctuation, our spelling, and all of those are AI tools as well. I just think it's so triggering for donors. It's so interesting. It's so triggering for a lot of people because of the myths and misconceptions out there, I think, about artificial intelligence and AI. And I think with donors, I don't know. I completely agree. I know that at least the really large organizations, a lot of those letters are definitely written by either a team of consultants or one consultant. They've definitely been advised upon by a team of people, gone through hours and hours of iteration. So I'm just not sure. How can we change donors' perceptions? I guess that's maybe what we should be looking to do. Educate donors. Is it just kind of a wait and see game until the early adopters, until people catch up to the early adopters?
I think that's something to do with it. I think it's about transparency as an organization.
Yeah.
If we are very upfront saying, hey, we're going to throw an asterisk at the bottom of this letter. And that asterisk says, hey, this letter was drafted in some version by using AI. And this is why we're doing that. We want to create a more specific experience to you because you know what? We love you. You're a great supportive donor, but we need more of you. And for us to be able to focus on more of you, we need to be efficient with our time. Mm-hmm. But we want you as a donor to have as great of experience as possible. So that's why this letter not only has a variable data of your name and last giving amount, but can ask you, hey, how did Jimmy's graduation from, Annapolis go this summer? We're so excited to hear that he's moving on to become an officer in the Navy. Mm-hmm. Like those sort of little tidbits, that's not quantitative data, that's qualitative data. So how am I leveraging what that data I have in my CRM to create that experience with you?
The other thing I would say to nonprofits and donors alike is that these are tools that can help us do our job better. And if we do our job better, we can raise more money. And if we raise more money more efficiently, then we can create more impact. And I think we need to see the forest for the trees. And, we all worried about social media. We all worried about the internet when it first came along and worried about email marketing taking over and no one was going to actually call anyone on the phone anymore. And I do think that seeing the bigger picture of, if I put in the top performing fundraising appeals from the last 5 years and I enter them into ChatGPT and say, what are the commonalities? What are the stories that resonate? What is the subject line that resonates? I can do my job better. Like, I think at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we want to focus on. We want to see how are we going to create the best experience for our donors at the same time while we feel valued for what we're doing and how we're making a difference. And knowing that I just have so much more power than I did yesterday because I have these tools like generative AI.
Exactly. And I do also think generative AI doesn't have to create something out of nowhere. You can use it to refine content you already have. You can use it to make you a better writer, a better analyst of data, a better copywriter. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that you can leverage these tools to do your job better, just sort of like a partner. So I'm really excited because you are the AI dude and a prominent thought leader on AI for nonprofits. So what trends are you excited about this year? What are you seeing shaping the sector as AI becomes more widespread in 2025?
I think the big thing that we're going to be on the lookout for is agent level AI. So we're starting to see that now in other right. So basically it's where you're creating not only a brand persona like a custom GPT, but now that custom GPT has the power to go and actually do something out of its little box. So think about creating a travel agent itself. And that travel agent can say, you're talking to it saying, all right, I've got this trip coming up to California. I need to be here on this date and time. I need a rental car. Go out there, find me the best flights, and book it for me.
Oh my gosh, I want that so badly.
Well, we're there. Claude has started to implement that. OpenAI's, it's going to be called Operator, is what they're going to be coming out with. They said January. I mean, we still have 2+ weeks left in January, so we'll see what happens.
Right. Maybe by the time this gets published.
Yeah, maybe.
It'll be out.
Maybe. You're much quicker than me. I wind up recording episodes with guests and they don't get released for months just because for me, I put them in the can and then release them out over time.
I used to do that, but then I just didn't record for about 3 months. Do we just Google operator by OpenAI?
Yeah, I think if you just go to, or go to ChatGPT and say, hey, tell me more about operator from OpenAI and see what it tells
even better.
Oh, I love learning from AI. So going back to one of your earlier questions about prompting and how can we be better at prompting? It's about creating feedback loops.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating those opportunities that allow me to learn from ChatGPT the way that it's thinking the way it does. So a couple prompts that I add to almost any string of prompts that I'm doing, I'll end with, do you understand or have any questions?
Mm-hmm.
What that's doing is creating opportunities for clarity from the tool itself. So we can say, you know what? I see what you're trying to accomplish here, Josh, but I need some more information about XYZ. Or another great one, when I'm sitting there working in tables and creating subject lines or creating social posts or something like that, I'll end a last column that says, include the reasoning. So I see why ChatGPT is thinking the way it does. Creating those opportunities is not only going to allow for better quality output, but it's going to allow me as the user get a better understanding of, from a Gestalt perspective of the projects I'm working on, but also the inner workings and the minds of the AI itself, so I can try to prompt better to get the results I'm looking for.
And you had mentioned custom GPT. What does GPT stand for? Generative Pre-trainer Tool. Okay. So if you are not familiar with custom GPTs, what Josh is talking about is if you are in the paid version of Chat GPT, you can create, I think a really good example is I created one that's basically me. Okay. It's called Julia, which is a very creative name. I entered all the text of both my books. I entered every one of my blog posts and transcripts from all of my podcasts. I entered in a lot of my PowerPoints from speaking and some interviews that I did on other podcasts. So it's trained on how I talk and what I'm an expert in, and also what I focus on in my philosophy. So when I write a blog post or an email or even a proposal for a client, I can put it into this GPT, this custom trained tool, and ask it to put it more in my voice or to see if it is in my voice. I really hope that makes sense to people. But it's very, very cool. I know Seth Godin did a very similar thing. He put all his blog posts and all his books in, and he uses it to, first of all, actually, it's a great research tool where you can ask it, what did I say in 2005 about XYZ topic? Or how did I feel about X when it first was purchased by Elon Musk? It's almost like having this little archive research library for your own content. So that's how I use it. And I think nonprofits probably have that much content as well.
That's a really good use case for it, of building a virtual you. Think about, within your organization, you might not have someone in the role of chief marketing officer. You might not have someone in the role of public relations specialist. You might not have someone, but now you have that ability to create those roles all through proper training. And when I say training, it's not training for yourself, but it's training the model. And as Julia was saying, taking her past books, taking her blog posts, taking her emails, content that she has written in her voice, so it learns and understands who you are and the voice that you're trying to accomplish.
The one feature that I'm really excited about that you just talked about, the operator, what I need, and anyone listening that is developing an AI tool, if you're listening, I need it when it emails me, when I get an email from the school with 27 different dates, I just need them all to go on my calendar. How can we do that? I really thought Gemini was going to do that with Google, but it didn't. Unless they're calendar invites, which obviously, but if it's just a text email or a PDF calendar, that is one thing that I need. And I think that all of us need is calendar management. So hopefully that will be a tool that's coming along. What are some other tools that you're seeing that are really going to help fundraisers in this next year?
That's a good question. I subscribe to, like I said, a lot of emails. Product Hunt is a great one, and that shows all these different
Cool.
up and coming tools that developing. So I don't think it's so much a third party new tool coming along. What we're going to see is the current tools we're using bake AI into it more and more under the hood, whether we realize it or not. And I think what we're getting to, and we should be there soon if we're not there already with some of our major CRMs, as opposed to our traditional reports and search, and you need to make sure you're using and versus or you need to make sure that you've selected the right fields. You'll now be able to go to an interface and literally say, find me, the most recent donors in this zip code that have a child under 4 years old and has made a minimum donation of $50 a month. I think that's where we're starting to see more of the innovation using AI than necessarily something coming along that's going to write my emails better.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so interesting. You talk a lot about AI for donor intent. Is that your keynote? What's the name of your latest keynote that you are traveling literally the world talking about this year?
A couple of them. AI and sentiment analysis has been a big one that I'm speaking a lot on. Also, as you said, donor intent. So frictionless donor behavior using AI is a big one. But to me, the sentiment analysis is really exciting. It's getting to the science behind someone's connection to your organization, but digging deeper, understanding through natural language processing. That comment that someone made on my social media post says something. That reply to me in an email says something. That survey answer to me, going beyond that quantitative data, going to that qualitative level, understanding intent and polarity and emotion. So is what someone's saying to me negative, neutral, positive? Is this a happy response? Is this a sad, angry response? Is there empathy? All these things allows me to lean into that more, know how to respond to them. But at the same time, too, how can I shift sentiment or enhance sentiment based upon what they're saying?
Well, I want to get the link for the AI use policy, and I will put it in the show notes. Where are you speaking next? How can people find you and connect with you online and learn more from you?
Absolutely. So let's see. I just got back from San Antonio.
Hellish travel, and I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Things happen. When people are like, ooh, you got to go speak in front of people. And
so glamorous, as we know.
Glamorous. That's so glamorous. When you get 5-hour delay, then flight cancel, and then 2 nights in a budget hotel by the airport. Awesome. Next, I'm heading back up to Brooklyn in February. I think the big one on the calendar, we got AFP Icon in April out in Seattle. Got NATO, which is North American Wide Development Officers Conference in St. Louis. I'm going to be in Napa Valley giving a keynote in early April. Let's see, May.
What about Planet Philanthropy?
So I'm missing Planet Philanthropy this year. Planet Philanthropy. So for those that don't know, Planet Philanthropy is the annual conference put on the AFP Florida Caucus, which is the group of AFP chapters throughout the state of Florida. I've been a member of that conference for years now, serving as conference chair, past 4 or 5 years serving as education co-chair. I am still serving as education co-chair for that. I am still very much supporting and encouraging the success of that conference. But I'm going to be in Italy.
Oh, wow.
I'll be presenting. I know. Boo-hoo me. I have to go to Italy as opposed to going to Orlando. But yes, I'm going to be at Festival del Fundraising in Regione, Italy, presenting 3 different sessions. 2 of them are going to be to a all Italian language audience. They're going to be wearing, headphones and lifetime real translation.
Cool.
So that will be interesting for me. I've got West Virginia on the calendar this year. I got a couple other things throughout Florida, a bunch of webinars. There's always something that
Josh is coming to your state, and we are doing some courses with the Lilly School of Philanthropy.
We are
on digital fundraising. So if you follow me, you will learn more about that. Where can people follow you, connect with you online? The
Absolutely.
AI
Best
Dude.
place to find me is, you can find me at the aidude.ai. You can find my podcast easily online at any of your favorite listening services at the AI Dude. But check me out on LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of my time. sharing my thoughts and wherever I can weave in some good Goonies philosophy. Yes. I can. The Goonies philosophy of nonprofit leadership. I'm going to write that book. It's going to happen. Don't steal this if you're listening. But
I'm really excited. I think you should.
Whenever I can find time on top of the other 10 things that I'm trying to do at once.
I know. Oh my God. It is always that way, isn't it? Well, thank you, Josh, so much. My listeners, my followers are probably very, very familiar with you, but it's always so good to learn, what's new, what's happening, and, ways that nonprofits can use these tools to just do their job better, make more impact. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Julia. Always great to connect with you.
Well, hey there. I wanted to say thank you for tuning into my show and for listening all the way to the end. If you really enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, and you'll get new episodes downloaded as soon as they come out. I would love if you left me a rating or a review, because this tells other people that my podcast is worth listening to. And then me and my guests can reach even more earbuds and create even more impact. So that's pretty much it. I'll be back soon with a brand new episode. But until then, you can find me on Instagram at JuliaCampbell77. Keep changing the world, you nonprofit unicorn.